Hi everyone. Are you a mom that is struggling with estrangement grief? Because let's call it what it is, right? This really is a grieving process that you're going through right now. So for those of you that are new here to my channel, I first want to welcome you. My name is Sally Harris and I'm a mom who walked a difficult road with my own daughter for over a decade. And while her life spiraled, so did mine. And I want to just let you know that you're not alone in this, because some of you are finding me for the very first time. And I've talked to so many of you that when that happens, you're like, oh, I just realized I'm not alone. I thought I was going through this by myself. Like you're grieving silently, and that is a very scary place to be. And I wanted to just acknowledge that, first of all, for those of you that are grieving silently. I want to encourage you to stop doing that and to reach out for help. So, you know, the psychological effects of estrangement of your family with your child, it's inconceivable. And I know that you are feeling all the stages of grief. And we all know what those stages are. But I want you to know that for me personally, when I was going through this, it took someone telling me that that's what I was going through. I didn't know that I was grieving. I knew that I was feeling depressed, and I knew that I was anxious. And I knew that I had a really hard time accepting the reality of what was at that time. And I had a lot of anger and denial, right? But I didn't put it all together until someone told me that. So maybe that's you. Maybe this video is for you today, that you needed to hear that you are going through the grieving process. And I used to always think, oh, grieving is just for when someone passes away, right? And of course, that's the natural grief that we feel when someone dies. But for when you grieve someone who's alive, that's just a whole different dynamic, because there's still hope, right? There's still hope for change. And I hope that you do have even just a glimpse of that hope, that things can turn around. Because not only in my own life, but I have worked with countless moms who've had these miracles in their families as well. And I believe that the same can happen for you. But let's talk about the psychological effects, because, you know, it's first and foremost, it's super important that we acknowledge the reality of what is at the moment, right? In order to start healing from anything, we have to acknowledge what is. And so we have to validate the emotions, like, yep, I understand, I'm grieving. This is where my anger is coming from. You know, you're not that you're out intentionally trying to hurt other people because you're angry, right? Or you're depressed and you don't want to get out of bed. And so I want you to know that it's normal to go through that process, but also to jump around and skip around from those stages, because a lot of people do that. It's not this consecutive, 5 stages and then you're done. I mean, I wish it was that simple. To navigate those stages is very common, like I said. So what do you do about it, right? You have to acknowledge that this is where you're at. You have to acknowledge that this is where your son or daughter is at right now. But don't catastrophize it to the point where this is the way it's always going to be. You know, he doesn't love me, she doesn't love me, and she left, and I'm never going to see her again. If that's what you're telling your brain, you're in for a long haul, because your body's going to keep score of all those emotions. I promise you that. You know, a lot of you, if you're just starting with this, you notice some psychological effects right away. We have anxiety, right? We might get some depression. We have just some uncomfortableness. You might get headaches, stomach aches when you get nervous. We all have the place in our body that is a little weaker, maybe, where when we start feeling a lot of anxiety or stress, that it's just a trigger, right? Well, that's your body keeping score. That's your body knowing, like, okay, she's upset again. This is our natural reaction. And we just have to learn to change those things. And how do you do that? It really is moving forward and being able to find meaning in the pain, right? I want to encourage you to know that, first of all, you're not alone. This is by far, I can only speak for me, that was the hardest situation I've ever been through in my life. And if you would have told me that we would have come out the other side, I probably wouldn't have believed you at the time. But now that I know that it's possible, and I've worked with so many moms that it's possible, that I know it's possible for you too. But if you're not taking care of yourself in this process and you are sitting in your grief for a really long time, you are not going to get better. And so how can your relationship ever come back together in a healthy manner? Because remember, you're on this path and your child's on this path, and you can only control you. So if you aren't taking care of yourself, and let's say they come back, or you get that phone call, or you get that text where they want to communicate, or how are you going to respond? Are you going to respond in a healthy manner? Or are you going to respond maybe out of pain, out of grief, out of anger, because you're still stuck in that? But if you've worked through that and past that, you're much more likely to respond differently. So for those of you that want extra help, and really, grieving is also you lose sight of who you are. Absolutely, 100%. And so I have a new workshop summer series coming up July, August, September. You can click the link below for more information. But I'm doing a workshop. My one in July is about who am I? For you moms, so you can figure out who are you? What do you like to do? How do I rediscover myself in the midst of all this pain, in the midst of all this grief? So I look forward to seeing you there. But I want you to remember here, when it comes to grief estrangement, a lot of people will ask me, is it a form of abuse? Is estrangement a form of abuse? And my answer is sometimes yes, I do think it is. And I think it depends on the purpose behind in which it's happening, right? Some children have a justifiable reason why they don't want anything to do with their parents. That's just the way it is. Things have happened in the past, and maybe it's something they can't look past. But majority of the time, they are good, well-intended parents like you that are sure we've made our share of mistakes, but it was never ill-intended, right? So if that's the case, then it can be a form of abuse. And I know a lot of you are dealing with even, missing your grandchildren. I personally did not have to deal with that situation, thank goodness. But my heart goes out to you. And I work with a lot of moms who are dealing with that as well. And it's very difficult. It's very difficult. And so I want you just to encourage you to look past and focus on trying to get past the grief. And so you can move forward, so you can take care of yourself and thrive in your own life in the midst of chaos. That's strength. That is strength. And so I just want to encourage you today. So I'll see you next time.